Good evening. We're ready to begin. This Planning Commission meeting is called to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being video recorded as well as presented live on KCLV Cable Channel 2. You can also watch this meeting live on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV on the Go Vegas app. The Planning Commission meeting, as well as all other KCLV programming, can be viewed on the internet at www.kclv.tv/live. These proceedings will be rebroadcast on KCLV and the web the Saturday after the meeting at 10 a.m., Monday at midnight, and the following Tuesday at 6 p.m. Would everyone please stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chair Rogan.
Present.
Vice Chair Cherry.
Present.
Commissioner Schlottman. Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Walsh.
What, present?
Commissioner Kasama. Present. Commissioner Taylor. Present. Thank you.
Could you mark Commissioner Schlottman present when he returns, please?
Will do.
I call to your attention the information printed in your agenda concerning our actions and the appeal and review process if appropriate. Please read this carefully, and if you have any questions, staff is available. Also, the second page of the agenda contains our rules of conduct. We appreciate you adhering to these rules so we can have a smooth meeting. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 4, public comment. All comments made under this item for specific action items will be cross-referenced to those items. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak under this portion of the agenda? Come on up.
I would like to object to...
Hold on one second, sir. If you could just state your name, please.
Stanton Pay.
Could you spell that for us, please?
S-T-A-N-T-O-N. This is my first name, and my last name is Pay, P-E-A-Y.
Are you speaking about a specific item that's set for hearing tonight? Which item number?
Number 11 on the one...
One motion, one vote?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to object to this item. When Signature Homes originally approached this, they said they were going to put 5 houses per acre. I'm on an acre, and they want to put 29 homes on 2 acres. So basically, I would get a lot of neighbors on the horse property, and I really don't want the traffic.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right.
Seeing no one else, I'm going to... Oh, one more. Come on down. If anyone else wants to speak during this portion of public comment, please come on down and line up.
Ron Petroni. I represent some businesses for agenda item number 26.
Sir, that's going to be... That actually has a public hearing, so if you want to wait to address us then, or you can speak now.
Do it then. Nope, I can do it then.
Okay.
That'll be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see anyone else coming down for public comment. We'll move on to agenda item 5, to approve the final minutes for the Planning Commission meeting of January 10th, 2023. Vice Chair, can I please have a motion?
Motion on the floor to approve the minutes of the January 10th Planning Commission meeting.
Commissioner Walsh.
Yeah, I don't have it up on the screen.
Please just vote verbally.
Yeah, yes.
That motion carries.
Trinity Mark is here.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 6. Any items from the Planning Commission staff or the applicant that wish to be stricken or held in abeyance to a future meeting may be brought forward and acted upon in this time. Are there any items that commissioners, staff, applicants, or members of the public would like to pull forward for action?
Mr. Chairman, staff has one housekeeping item. Staff is requesting a 30-day abeyance for item number 31, project number 22-0723, to be held to the March 14th Planning Commission meeting for re-notification purposes. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to speak on any of these items? Sir.
Good evening. Regarding item 18, Sheldon Colin, 2525 West Horizon Ridge, representing the applicant. He would like that withheld. We're no longer on the docket.
He wants it withdrawn?
Yeah, thank you. Withdrawn. Okay. And I'm here in case there's anybody who wanted to speak or talk against it. I'd be more than happy to take their information.
Great. Thank you very much. You want that withdrawn without prejudice, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
item number 25, we'll have further discussion when the contractors come today. So it's going to be under the public hearings.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I can't hear
There's
you.
a person here for that that's going to go request to be seen under the public hearings.
Okay, we'll get to that at
You
public
just when you
hearing.
get to it?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Chairman, down here, Jim Lewis.
Yes.
I think Ward 6 might have Ward 4 might have a request.
I'd like to make a request to pull item 9 and have that for discussion.
Thank you, we'll do that. Anyone else? Okay, Vice Chair, can I have a motion, please?
Through the chair, make a motion on item 31 to hold it for 30 days until the March Planning Commission meeting, and item 18 to be withdrawn without prejudice. And item 9 will be pulled to be heard tonight, though, right?
Yes.
Yes, yep.
Please cast your votes.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, that motion carries. Moving on to the consent agenda items. These are items are routine and may be enacted by one motion. Any item may be discussed if a commission member or applicant so desires. Vice Chair.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda numbers 7 and 8.
Please cast your votes. That motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, those items are final action tonight unless appealed to the clerk in 7 days.
Moving on to one motion, one vote. These are items that may be considered in one motion, one vote. They are considered routine, non-public, and public hearing items with a staff recommendation for approval. All public hearings and non-public hearings will be opened at one time. Any person representing an application or a member of the public or a member of the Planning Commission not in agreement with the conditions and all standard conditions for the application recommended by staff should request to have that item removed from this part of the agenda. Item 9 is being heard as a public hearing. Moving on to agenda item 10, 22-0448 SUP1 applicant Flight Banking owner Rio Vista Plaza LLC for possible action on a land use entitlement project request for a proposed drive-through use at 7035 West Ann Road, Ward 6. Staff recommends approval. Related items 11A through B. Project number 22-0657, applicant Signature Homes, owner Precedent Properties LLC and International LLC for possible action on the following land use entitlement project requests at the northwest corner of La Mancha Avenue and Gaisford Street, Ward 4. 11A is a rezoning from R3 medium density residential to RTH single family attached. Agenda item 11B is a approval for a temporary map for a 29 lot single family attached residential subdivision. Agenda item 12, project number 22-0707 SUP1 applicant Christopher Latore, owner Rainbow Charleston Plaza LLC for possible action on a land use entitlement project request for a proposed tattoo parlor body piercing studio use at 1105 South Rainbow Boulevard, Suite 101, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. Agenda item 13, 22-0708 SUP1 applicant Coolsville Tattoos LLC, Series 7, owner Sean Michael Inc. Incorporated for possible action on a land use entitlement project request for a proposed tattoo parlor body piercing studio use at 1948 East Charleston Boulevard, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Agenda item 14, 22-0719 SUP1 applicant Jet Gaming LLC, owner Herbst HC LLC for possible action on a land use entitlement project request for a proposed gaming establishment restricted use at 333 South Main Street, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. And agenda item 15, 22-0722 MSP1 applicant owner School Board of Trustees for possible action on a land use entitlement project request for a proposed freestanding sign with an animated LED display in an existing public primary school at 1800 Rock Springs Drive, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. Vice Chair. Oh, I'm sorry. These items have been noticed for a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to be heard on this? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Through the chair, a motion for approval on items 11 through 15.
10 through 15?
Excuse me, 10 through 15. I apologize.
Motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, items 10, 13, 14, and 15 are final action unless appealed to the city clerk in 10 days, and items 11 and 12 will move on to city council on March 15th.
Thank you. Agenda item number 9, abeyance 22-0528, applicant Johnson Development Associates Incorporated, owner Oso Blanco Place LLC, for possible action on the land use entitlement project request located on the west side of Oso Blanco Road, approximately 1,100 feet south of Elkhorn, Ward 4. Staff recommends approval on the following land use entitlement projects. 9A, abeyance 22-0528, MOD1 from UC Urban Town Center Mixed Use and PFTC Public Facilities to UCTC Urban Center Mixed Use Town Center Special Land Use Designation. Agenda item 9B, 22-0528, SUP1 to allow a mini storage facility use. 9C, 22-0528, VAC1, petition to vacate public right-of-way generally located on the west side of Oso Blanco Road, approximately 1,100 feet south of Elkhorn Road. And 9D, 22-0528, SDR1 for proposed 45-foot tall, 3-story, 858-unit mini storage development with waivers of the town center development standards. Can I get the staff report, please?
Corey Stewart, Department of Community Development, for the record. Mr. Chairman, the proposed mini storage development can be conducted in a manner that is harmonious and compatible with the surrounding area. While waivers are requested due to the irregular shape of the lot, staff finds the proposed development meets the overall intent of the town center development standards. Therefore, staff recommends approval of all entitlements. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Lebanon Uhini, 520 South 4th Street, representing the applicant. And with me is the applicant, Wyatt Laughlin. The proposal as read is into the record by staff requires 4 applications, and we've met all those application requirements. This is why staff recommended approval. We do accept all of staff's recommendation for approval, as well as the most recent approval conditionally, so we can work with the city councilwoman between now and the city council meeting next month. Thank you.
Thank you. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to offer comment? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and turn it over to the Planning Commission, beginning with Commissioner Kasama.
Hi, thank you. And so regarding this item, there have been a few concerns regarding it, but I just want to express that we understand that there have been prior discussions with the previous holder of both the City Council seat and the Planning Commission seat. And so with reservations, we will be, it is my intent to vote to approve this item and send it up to the City Council, though I do strongly urge that you set up meetings with the City Councilwoman prior to the City Council, just to discuss those items in particular. But I would ask if you could read out the condition on record for the proposed.
990 of the site development plan.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I have that condition prepared if you'd like me to read it in the record. The condition would be added to number 9D, 22-0528 SDR1, and it would read, revised elevations shall be submitted to the Department of Community Development for review and approval prior to or at the same time as application is made for a building permit for the primary structure, depicting the western elevation of the facility as having no articulations so as to the placement of a baseball-themed mural. The mural shall be properly maintained and kept free of graffiti at all times.
Thank you, Nicole. Does anyone else wish to offer comment? Seeing none, can we have a motion, please?
I'm sorry, Chair, I did have a couple questions.
Yes, go ahead.
I apologize. Thank you for the indulgence. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for agreeing to that condition related to some art on this building that is going to basically immediately abut a series of Little League fields that used to be in Ward 6 and softball fields. And so I think that this is a really important piece of maintaining sort of the aesthetics of that area and making sure that folks that are trying to enjoy our parks are able to have that sort of a vista and have some artwork and not just the standard wall. I also know that we did discuss in the past, we did discuss the palm trees. And I think that, you are aware that I have concerns with palm trees because they do not meet the intent of the master plan or Southern Nevada Water Authority's list of approved plants that are drought tolerant. And so what I understand is that that was approved because there are town center design standards that were adopted in the past that included palm trees that were a large part of it. And that those are part of the development standards as part of town center. However, I understand again that part of what the intent was to have that sort of continuation of the town center standards, but I would request that while you're redoing those elevations, that the palm trees be exchanged for 36-inch box trees that would better fit the needs of the community for shade, for walkability, for decreasing urban heat island. And I think I'd like to check with Ms. Eddowes to make sure that wouldn't be a problem that staff would have in terms of changing in terms of this application. And so that would be my comment and my request.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments, Commissioner Taylor. Unfortunately, I think some of those requests have not been noticed, so I don't know whether we'd be able to include those in any future application or discussion with the applicant has with City Council between now and that meeting.
And
but it's very good to think about those things for the future.
Right, and I just, like I said, I want to make sure that is something that we are considering, is that there's this master plan, and that even if there are town standards, if they're not going to completely conflict with the town standards, that just because we had palm trees in the past doesn't mean we need to have palm trees in the future. So if that's something that can be, okay, thank you. Thank you
so
for
much.
the clarification, Chair Rogan.
No problem. Do you agree to the condition that was read into the record?
Yes, we're conditionally agreeing with a condition so we can work it out.
Okay.
The reason being, we just found out today and then it was revised just before this meeting. So we have talked to the councilwoman and Serena had kind of clued us in as to the possibility. So we do accept it and we'll work with it, with her. As to what Commissioner Taylor is requesting, I think that is basically an overall thing for the county, the city to consider, because the design element along Oso Blanco basically is a trail plus the palm trees. So we will discuss it with the councilwoman as well. We understand the concern about palm trees, but it's the design for that area. So we kind of don't know what to do because we've been conditioned to meet that requirement.
There's nothing that you need to do with regard to those palm trees. So as I understand it, for the record, you're conditionally accepting the condition based upon future discussions with the council person between now and City Council, correct?
That's correct. We've told her we would agree to the condition so we can work it out.
Okay. All right. So you're not agreeing to it just yet, but you are still working towards agreeing to it in the future.
We're agreeing to it, but how it works, we'll have to decide.
Yeah, Chairman.
Okay, yes.
I think we just need a yes or a no on this one, Chairman.
Yes, we're agreeing to the condition.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Commissioner Kasama, I think we're ready.
I'll make a motion to approve with the condition.
9A through D with the added condition.
Yes.
So that's a motion to approve agenda items 9A through 9D, subject to all of staff's conditions and the additional condition read into the record this evening. Please cast your votes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Have a good evening.
Thanks. And that motion carries. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, that item will move on to City Council on March 15th.
Moving on to agenda item 16, abeyance 22-0092 VAR1, applicant owner Romy Hernandez Jr. and Brittany Hernandez for possible action on a land use entitlement project request to allow a 0-foot side yard setback for two existing detached accessory structures where 5 feet is required, a 0-foot rear yard setback for an existing accessory structure where 15 feet is required, the height of two existing detached accessory structures to exceed the height of the main dwelling where such is not allowed, a 0-foot separation from the main dwelling where 6 feet is required for an existing detached accessory structure is not to be aesthetically compatible with the principal dwelling unit where such is required, and a 3-foot front yard screen wall where 2 feet is allowed, at 3919 Helen Avenue, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Brenda Perez, Department of Community Development. For the record, Mr. Chairman, staff finds that this to be self-imposed hardship as the accessory structures and front yard wall were constructed without building permits and resulted in code enforcement action. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the variance. Please note that there are additional letters of protest received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. If the applicant could please state your name for the record.
My name is Romy Hernandez, and I have Nikki here. We're the ones that reside at 3919 Helen, and this is my mother. She's here to help represent us. So I prepared a letter I'd like to read. Good evening. I would like to thank the city for taking the time to call for this meeting and to help preserve our structures and help bring them up to required city code. During COVID, many businesses took a turn from brick and mortar locations and made a transition to online stores. During this time, we made the jump to purchase this property in order to utilize the rear detached garage to house the inventory that we use to supply my online business that is based and facilitated out of Henderson. The purchase agreement amount of the house was in excess of what the house is actually worth due to the fact that it included these detached garages. It would be a huge financial hardship if these structures would have to be removed. During our time here, we have made many great friendships with many of the neighbors in the community. We're striving to live the American dream of purchasing a home, starting a family here, and to continue to make this our home. Since purchasing the home, we have improved the property by removing over 10 trailer loads of junk and debris from the property. The trash was so immense that the Republic Services asked for a site inspection to make sure that the stuff was coming from our property and not a junk removal business. After a quick site visit, the supervisor had realized the intensity of the years of clutter that accumulated on the three-quarter acre property that we now have, and raised the dump limits for us in order to be able to clear the land. We have also been working on improving the curb appeal of our home with adding new stucco work, new exterior paint, and completely new landscape in our front yard, which I do have a picture of our front yard here, because before it was all dirt and some dead trees. So we redid all the landscape to make it look more presentable for everybody in our neighborhood. After around a year of closing on our new to us home, we were notified that the front car covering, side drive-through covering, metal RV shed, and detached garage were not in fact permitted at the time of construction. The sellers did not disclose the permitting issues to us in our closing documents, and now we are left to face these issues on our own. Since hearing about the violations, we have not been able to fully enjoy utilizing the amenities of the property due to the fact that they are in code violation. The side and front coverings have been on the property for 15 years, and the detached garage has been constructed 3 decades ago. We do not have any complaints on our property regarding the structures. It only came to the city's attention when our neighbor had an argument with his son, and his son tried to get his father in trouble by calling code enforcement on him. We will take any actions necessary to modify or improve these structures to conform to city code. We are looking to comply with city code and live in this home for many years to come. At this time, I would like to thank Commissioner Williams for taking the time out of his day to come and visit our home. He noticed the amount of structures in question on the property and wanted to see firsthand what the issues were. At this time, he looked over each shade covering and detached garage in detail to see what would need to be done in order for them to conform with city code. Mr. Williams has been a tremendous help in devising a plan that can be a possible solution to bring our property up to code. After meeting with Commissioner Williams, we have come up with what we think may be an agreeable solution both for us and for the city's safety concerns. First, we would like to remove the side covering, the side shade structure on the property in order to meet the required setbacks and to not be a fire hazard to our surrounding neighbor. And I have a picture of that side covering right here that we would like to remove.
I'm sorry, can you describe that again? We now have that up on the screen. Can you describe that again, please?
So we would, this structure was an issue because it's connected to both the house and it goes to the property line. And it's also too tall in comparison with the home. So we think it would be best to remove this. That way we don't have any more setback violations, and we get rid of the height requirement, and then we don't impose a fire hazard to our neighbor. So we would like to just remove this altogether. And then that was one of the issues. And then the second thing that we would like to modify is we would like to pour a new foundation for our RV shed, which is right here. So we have an RV shed in the back corner of the property that goes right up to the property line currently. So we think it would be best if we were to pour a new foundation on the side of this and then just move the RV shed over to give us our setback requirements. And then the third thing we would like to do is on our detached garage in the back, there is a shade covering that extends from it, and it also extends to the back property line. And we think it would be best if we demolition the back part of this. That way we can meet the setback requirements at the back of the property. And then the fourth thing is we have this additional brick wall in the front of the home that is taller than what's allowed. So we would like to go ahead and bring this down to the allowable height. And then once making these changes to our property, we feel that our property will no longer be in violation of any of the codes set forth. And then here, I have a list of neighbors that are in support of our variance request. So we went out and nobody seemed to have an issue with what we're trying to do here. And at this time, I would like to thank all of you and Commissioner Williams for taking your time to view our case.
Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, I'll turn this over to the planning.
There's one.
Oh, there's one. Come on down. If you folks could just move off to the side. Sure. Please, thank you. Good evening, sir. If you could just state your name for the record.
How you doing? My name is Ismael Acosta. I live across the street from them. And the back pictures, they were there. To be honest with you, like, they're hardworking people. They just like do whatever. They don't have no parties or anything like that, right? So I live across the street. I have no really problem with anything, really, because there are sunsets in the back. I get the shade part of it, but I've been in Vegas since 1979, and I'm pretty new in that neighborhood. Not new, but like 6-7 years ago. So to me, it's like I didn't even notice anything.
So you're in support of their request?
I'm support. They're knocking down a lot of stuff, so that's a lot of deconstruction.
Thank you so much.
So I have no problem with that. So
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to be heard on this? Seeing none, I'll turn this over to the Planning Commission, starting with Commissioner Williams, please.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, listen, that's, I just want to say through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Hernandez, thank you for, this is quite a bit of work in terms of accommodating removal and demolition to bring the property into code. I think the one thing that would still exist would be the compatibility of the shed in the backyard once you move it, which I think in support of all of your efforts to bring the rest of the items in code. Wouldn't have a problem approving that. And so I guess through you, Mr. Chair, I would just ask for staff to give us some language around, I guess if he's going to correct all of the other deficiencies, those go away, and it's really just a motion that would support a waiver for the non-compatibility of the shed in the back, correct?
I believe so, but I'll defer to staff. I guess the motion would be to deny everything except for the, go ahead.
Yes,
Mr. Schlattman.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to keep the part about the shed being taller than the primary house on the rear shed? Is that still taller than the primary dwelling?
Mr. Hernandez, is that shed that's in the back, I think you called it the RV structure, is that taller than the house?
It is taller than the house. The shed
so those
no,
two,
actually, they're about equal. The 14-foot tall, where the main dwelling is 13.5-foot tall.
okay, so those are the two remaining requests that would need to be approved or denied. Thank you, Commissioner Schlattman.
So through you, Mr. Chair, my question is the motion to deny all waivers with the exception of the structure compatibility and not compatible with the regular structure, the primary structure and height? I need to craft some language for this.
I think you can just make a motion to, I guess it's either way. You can make a motion to deny agenda item 16 except for the two items discussed, the height as well as the lack of aesthetic compatibility with the main structure. And I think the record will be clear.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Peter Lowenstein for the record. So in regards to this, you want to have a condition that clearly states what's being approved and denied because the advertisement covers a lot of things. So if he's going to cure everything with the exception of the aesthetic compatibility, if he's going to comply with the 10-foot setback, the height of that accessory structure would be acceptable. If he's within the 10-foot, the height is still an issue because there's a code provision at 5 feet, code provision at 10 feet. So if you can get confirmation from the applicant as far as the distance for the new pad he's pouring, if that's at 10 feet, then the height is not an issue. Then you would make a motion to the aesthetic compatibility, the variance from aesthetic compatibility is hereby approved. All other requested variances would be hereby denied. And then that would be your condition that you would add on.
Thank you, Peter. Commissioner Schlattman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Also, I heard the applicant talk about moving the slab to the side. Were you planning on moving it to the side and moving it away from the property line, or just moving it to the side?
I was planning on moving it to the side of where it currently is at. But if that is a setback issue, then we can move it forward too.
There is a part in here that talks about the 15-foot setback is required on the rear property line. So
because it's already
at 14
foot.
I think we may want to just look through every one of these and make sure that every one of those are identified as needed or not needed based on what he said, because there's been a lot of changes.
All right. Why don't we do this? Why don't we just obey this or hold this item for either staff or Commissioner Williams to figure out what's happening and then come back rather than do it on our own. So if you could just have a seat, we're going to move on to some other items and someone will just come talk to you to clarify what's going on based upon the changes that you're willing to concede this evening, okay?
Okay.
All right, thanks. So just sit on over there in that first row for me, please.
All right, thank you.
So do you have to make a motion to trail the item at that point?
Yes, we'll just trail it. Thank you. Peter, could you help out with this? Trail it. I misspoke. Trail. Thank you.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to trail item 220092 VAR1.
I don't think we need to make a motion. We're just trailing it to later on in the calendar.
Got it.
Okay, correct. Thank you so much. All right, while we're waiting on that, we'll move on to related items 17A through B, Abeyance 22-0624, applicant owner ProView Series LLC, Series 36, for possible action on the following land use entitlement project requests at 1701 South Las Vegas Boulevard, Ward 3. Staff recommends denial. 17A, Abeyance 22-0624 VAR1, a variance to allow 0 parking spaces where 512 are required and to allow 0 loading spaces where 2 are required. 17B, 22-0624 SDR1, a site development plan review for a proposed conversion of existing auto repair garage into a 2-story 26,927 square foot commercial shell building, including 5,193 square feet rooftop deck with a 9,745 square foot outdoor patio area with waivers of the perimeter landscape buffer requirements. Can I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, while the proposed commercial shell development would be an improvement from the existing blighted and vacant building, staff is not able to support it due to 0 parking spaces being proposed. Staff finds the development will not be harmonious and compatible with the existing residential neighborhoods in the surrounding area and therefore recommends denial of both entitlements. Please note that the applicant conducted a voluntary neighborhood meeting on yesterday where the majority of the attendees voiced support for the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, if you could please state your name for the record.
Adam Foulad. Address as well, or no? Oh, okay. Adam Foulad. I'm here representing my father, who unfortunately is sick. Yesterday we conducted the neighborhood meeting for this project. I wasn't here the first time that he presented, so if there are any specific things that he did not go over, please let me know and I will go over them. What we're presenting is basically a change from a auto mechanic shop into restaurants and breweries, which we think goes more with the arts district. We did have the meeting yesterday where we talked to the community and they discussed questions such as parking, landscaping, what are expected uses for the building, and so on. As it was said, it seemed as if everyone that was at the meeting was in favor. I don't know if anyone is here to object, but if there's any specific questions, I can go over them.
Thank you very much. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Are any members of the public here to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public hearing and turn this over to the Planning Commission, starting with Commissioner Schlottman.
Thank you, Chairman. So I had the opportunity to meet with you and go to that community meeting last night here at City Hall, and I appreciate you taking our recommendation, or your father taking our recommendation 2 months ago to hold this, because you know it's a important project to that neighborhood. It also could have a big impact on that neighborhood. So I was very happy to see the turnout. Usually we don't have 20 people that show up here at City Hall for one project, and I think y'all did a great job talking about this project. Y'all done a great job with a lot of the other projects. It seems like we discussed the noise, and I mean the local noise ordinance is going to apply to this. This isn't free money, so you'll have to abide by that. We talked about another important topic to a couple of the neighbors was putting a sign on the property. That way people know where the parking is across Las Vegas Boulevard. And then one of the biggest things was the landscaping. You addressed it, but I'd like for you to address the landscaping again today. Just kind of tell us what your plan is for the landscaping, and if you can comment on why we have a landscape waiver, where that landscape waiver exists, and some of the things you're going to do to mitigate that. And if you don't mind just talking about the fence that you're going to have outside as well.
So starting with the first item, what we did discuss regarding we'll go from parking, and then from there, parking, we discussed that there is a parking lot at the corner of Main and Oakey. One of the residents from the neighborhood did ask what our plan was and if we could put a sign. We said that's no problem. Regarding landscaping, unfortunately it doesn't show on our renderings, and I don't believe we've submitted the landscaping plan, but we do have the full intent of putting landscaping throughout this property. A big thing for us is in that common area in the central courtyard. We're hoping to put trees for shade. We show landscaping on the current rendering, but we didn't want to obstruct the facade of the building, which is our goal in the rendering. So it doesn't fully show right now, but we have every full intent of putting landscaping. That's a big thing for us across all of our projects that we've done. In terms of the waiver, I'm not entirely sure why we have a landscaping waiver. I don't believe that we're going to need one. I think once we get our landscaping plan completed and we submit it, hopefully that addresses any issues that are there. And then regarding fencing, one thing that was discussed was a pony wall or some type of wall basically separating outside from inside. And what we plan to do is actually a pony wall, 2 or 3 feet tall with brick veneer. And then on top of that, similar to a project we did on Las Vegas Boulevard, we put glass. It's a very nice glass railing with aluminum posts, which have LED lights in them, so it lights up the complete facade of the front of the fence. That way we have that separation, and it adds something to the property rather than being fully open. I'm hoping that answered the question regarding those. But yeah, again, regarding the landscaping waiver, both myself and my father were confused yesterday why there was a waiver for that. We have every full intent of putting landscaping for this project.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Schlottman, anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, through you. And it's important because we discussed landscaping. You're saying you're going to put in landscaping, but tell me what you're planning on putting in. Like shrubs? Are you planning on doing trees with big canopy throughout the parking lot, or how is this going to look when you're finished?
So we're both going to be doing planters with shrubs alongside the building or alongside any separations, because there will be separations between each of the tenants. So there will be shrubs along the way. That way it's nice in front of them. But in the central courtyard for canopy, for shade, since Vegas gets very hot in the summers and our goal is to have this be somewhere where people can all come together in groups, we do plan to put trees throughout the central parking lot. And that way we have the canopy, we have the shade, and it's not just scorching hot in the summer where people are underneath the Vegas sun. But yeah, I can't show it right now, it's a little bit zoomed out, but you can see just the building is in the shape of an L. That interior portion, again, trees, shrubs, not in that central area, but more so along any railings or walls and so on.
Okay, and it appears, based on one of these conditions, that it would typically require a 15-foot landscaping buffer, which you may not have that 15-foot because the building was built so close to the property lines. I just want to make sure that there's a condition of approval stating that they'll have to turn in a landscape plan prior to the issuance of permits, because this isn't a waiver of of all landscaping for this project. And I know you're going to do it, but I think it would just make people feel a little bit better if there was something requiring you to turn in a landscape plan on this project.
Definitely. We can put that together. Once the building shell is approved, we can put together that landscaping plan. That way we know exactly.
Through you, Chairman, in regards to landscaping, this is a site development review. There should have been one submitted as part of it. There is, but it doesn't indicate anything. So I would say that you would probably want a revised landscape plan, as you indicated, Commissioner, prior to the issuance of the building permit depicting the landscaping. So the condition would read, a revised landscape plan shall be submitted to the Department of Community Development prior to or at the same time as submittal for a building permit, reflecting the proposed landscaping on the site to be approved by the department. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you agree to that condition?
We agree.
Okay. If there's no other comments, I'd like to make a motion.
Please go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on item number 17, Advance 22-0624 VAR1, A and B, I move to approve, subject to staff's added condition and all other standard conditions.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Commissioner Taylor.
Mr. Chair, it's not coming up on my computer.
Could you vote verbally, please?
I'm sorry?
Could you vote verbally, please?
I had not voted verbally yet. I was waiting for it to come up, but I vote yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And that motion carries.
And that is final action tonight, and must go to the city clerk in 10 days.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 19, project number 22-0654, applicant owner Royal Herald Byron III, for possible action on the following land use entitlement project requests on the north side of Miller Avenue, approximately 160 feet west of Lexington, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Agenda item 19A, 22-0654 VAR1, to allow 17 parking spaces where 21 are required. 19B, 22-0654 SCR1, for a proposed two-story, 2,520 square foot commercial shell building development. Could I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, as evident by the requested parking variance, staff finds the development as proposed is too intense for the subject site and incompatible with the surrounding residential area. Therefore, staff recommends denial on both entitlements. Please note additional letters of protest were received after publication. Thank you.
Sir, if you could please state your name for the record.
I'm Jason Mayhew. I'm here with owner Royal Byron. This project was previously approved in 2019 prior to COVID. During COVID, we missed the chance to file for an extension due to everything being so hectic during that time. We're trying to basically redo the same project that we had previously gotten approved in 2019. If you have more questions, I'm more than happy to answer anything you have.
Thank you very much. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and turn it over. I'm sorry. Please come down if you wish to be heard.
How you doing? I live next door.
Can you just state your name for the record?
My name is Patrick Meads.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
I live next door. I would like to know what's going to go in the building. If it's just an empty shell, I kind of got concerns about that because I don't want anybody putting in a liquor store, a dollar store, marijuana store, auto shop. It's going to create problems. I'm concerned about the height of the fence. I don't know if it's going to be an 8 or 10-foot fence, but it needs to be high enough to where people can't jump the fence and come over into people's yard. And I would like to know that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meads.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to be heard on this item? Definitely seeing no one else. I'll close the public hearing, turn it over to Commissioner Williams.
Actually, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to have the applicant please help us understand the tenants that are going to occupy this building and the usage, please.
Right now, it will be built as a shell building. Any of the usage that the other gentleman brought up would need special use permits to go in there anyways. So as of right now, we're planning retail. We have room for a very small restaurant, taco shop type of thing up in the very front of the building, and the rest to be either retail or office use. Do we have tenants for the building yet? No, because we don't have approval to build the building yet.
Yeah, I'm a bit challenged not understanding, and I mean, you heard from your neighbor, a resident that would butt up against the property, but I am a bit challenged not understanding the full intended use of this type of a development. What's the business plan? I mean, we're just going to build a building and let it sit there, or what are you guys looking to do?
Good morning, Royal Byron. I'm the owner of the property. Well, right now I own the First Nevada Barber School in the state of Nevada. My objective was to initially put there the retail, either barbershop, something that was going to be service to the community. Have no plans of any alcohol, anything that's going to bring anything that's going to hinder the community in any way, to be in the opposition of what should be there. I have a dream of having a donut shop, ice cream shop, those type of things. In my plan, I don't have a proposed to put a gate there for any reason, because I like it to be an open concept. But things like that I feel that my community, that I'm a lifetime resident of the community in that area, and I feel taco shops, everything that's, since COVID, that's going on to the new things that's out there. I don't have no interest in liquor and cigarettes for gain. And again, my whole objective is to have tenants there that either want to put something that's going to be a service, a community service to the public, which is, again, is taco shops, donuts, something that's going to be beneficial than just the regular stereotype commercial stuff that's around the neighborhood as it is.
Thank you. And typically, you know, approving projects and buildings and developments, we like to hear what the true intended use is for the development. Prior to making a motion, I would turn it over to the commission for any comments from my fellow commissioners.
Through the chair, I will say, I noticed the application, it is existing C2, and so it's staying with the same zoning that's been requested, so that I do have some comfort there. So, you know, whatever is allowed currently can be allowed, you know, by right now. I do like seeing the landscape plan, which I don't feel like I saw previously. And so, and I've seen this gentleman here before in previous meetings, I want to say a couple years ago, and I remember hearing about the barber shop and your efforts in the neighborhood. So I know it's someone that's been in the neighborhood for some time, so I feel like it's an application I can support.
Thank you, Commissioner Cherry. Anyone else?
Yes, Chairman, through you. Our company constructs properties all the time, and we work on a lot of adaptive use, reuse properties, and quite often we don't know who the tenant's going to be from the get-go, because when you get to the point of actually designing a project, getting the civils, going through the whole process, it could be a 12 to 18-month process before you even break ground. So if you try to secure a tenant and you tell them that it's going to be 18 months before they can even start their tenant improvements, and then they need another 6 months, it's 2 years out, and a lot of businesses don't have the foresight to be able to plan on a 24-month cycle. So a lot of our properties that we will build with the intent of having food and beverage, putting in grease interceptors and things such as that. And then it's up to the landlord to determine who they want in that building, and if there's any kind of protected uses that would require a special use permit, alcohol at a restaurant, alcohol, a liquor store, beer and wine, any kind of fuel or a lot of auto uses and things like that, that would all come back before the Planning Commission would get another bite of that apple. But sometimes it's hard to look that far into the future and secure a tenant. So that's why I can, you know, as long as you feel comfortable with the actual project, I could get behind it. If you have other concerns about the actual site design, I could follow you there.
Okay.
Commissioner Williams, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm actually, I know the applicant, know his track record, particularly in the historic West Side, and to Commissioner Cherry's point, all of his prior developments. So I'm ready to make a motion. Item 220654, motion for approval, 19A through B, motion for approval, provided you are in agreement with all the conditions.
Yes, we are.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Commissioner Taylor, please.
Yes, I would vote yes.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
also having some tech issues. This is another time where it's not popping up for me, so if someone can maybe come up here and help me, that'd be great.
Thank you. And that motion carries.
Thank you very much for your time. We'll see you in a couple of items.
And Mr. Chairman, that item will move on to City Council on March 15th.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 20, abeyance 22-0667VAR1, applicant owner Saul Regalado for possible action on the land use entitlement project request to allow a 0-foot side yard setback where 5 feet is required, a 14-foot front yard setback where 20 feet is required, a 0-foot separation to the main dwelling unit where 6 feet is required, and to be located within the front yard setback area where such is not allowed for an existing accessory structure, and an existing accessory structure to be located in the front yard setback area where such is not allowed, with a 3-foot corner side yard setback where 5 feet is required, a 10-foot front yard setback where 20 feet is required, and a 0-foot separation to the main dwelling unit where 6 feet is required at 601 Biltmore Drive, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Could I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, staff finds this to be a self-imposed hardship as the accessory structures were constructed without building permits and resulted in code enforcement action. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you please state your name for the record?
Mi nombre es Saúl Regalado, mi esposa Esmeralda Regalado.
And is there a,
Charles Chacon with Shift Program. I'm going to be translating for them, if that's okay. They request a translation.
thank you very much. Go ahead, sir.
¿Cómo? Bueno, la razón del proyecto es de que traspasaban muchas personas atrás de la yarda y
Reason for the project that he made as far as the garage carport was because of the excessive trespass on his property.
a veces se llevaban algunas cosas
And they would steal things from his property.
y mi esposa a veces se quedaba sola.
And his wife at times is by herself on the property, and he was concerned about that.
Y encontró una persona, varias veces encontró a unas personas, a una señora atrás.
He's found several people on the property in the back portion of it. That's the reason why he built the structure.
Thank you very much. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to offer comment? Seeing none, I'll turn this over to the Planning Commissioner, meeting again to Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is, and I know we obeyed this item, this is another one of these, specialty items where, going out and visiting, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not the worst that we've seen, and definitely, the owners have done a good job in terms of maintaining and keeping it up and consistent. And so unless there's further comment, I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion for approval on item 220667, VAR1, subject to staff's conditions. Do you agree with all staff's conditions?
Si estás bien con todas las condiciones que te van a poner para mantener la altura.
Sí, yo quiero
Yes, he's in agreement.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, that item will move on to City Council on March 15th.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to return to agenda item 16 that was already read into the record. It's project number 22-0092 VAR1. If the applicants could please come forward again. And Mr. Lowenstein, do we have an update on this?
Sure do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there are a number of different items that have been noticed as part of this. I'll walk through it fairly quick, and then I will give a straightforward condition and then ask for just direction to be given on time for the site to come into conformance. So there was 4 different components on the application. There was a drive-through port that is to be removed. The RV, the applicant has indicated they're going to move it over to 10 feet from the side yard setback, which would allow for the height of the accessory structure, and then it would comply with the setback requirements. There's a storage canopy that's to be reduced in its size so that it meets the setback requirements. And then in the front yard, there is a wall, and that's to be reduced in height to comply with the front yard wall height requirements as well. So to encapsulate that in a condition would be all variance requests as noticed are hereby denied with the exception of the variance request to allow an accessory structure, parentheses RV storage, to not be aesthetically compatible with the main dwelling where such is required. And then I would ask that the Planning Commission give direction as far as the timing in which the site is to be in conformance, and I believe 120 days was a starting point that would be adequate.
Is 120 days enough time, Mr. Hernandez?
I believe so. I haven't actually sourced out all of these things yet.
And if they need additional time, Mr. Lowenstein, can they work with the city for that, to that end?
That is correct. That is why I'm asking for direction versus that being part of the condition.
Okay. Commissioner Williams, I'll defer to you.
Well, if we set, through you, Mr. Chair, if we set 120 days, does that make it a condition, or that's the guidance? We can give guidance.
That would be guidance. So when you if you make a motion for approval, you would add the added condition, and then at the end of that, you would give guidance as far as when it's to come in conformance, and then staff would take that in direction as far as a follow-up with code enforcement to make sure that everything is done in that 120 days.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I'm fine with 120 days.
Okay, so 120 days would be the time frame for you to complete the requirements. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, all right. If there's a problem, contact the city. Don't wait. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So if we could adopt Mr. Lowenstein's statements as the motion here, it would be a motion for approval as read by Mr. Lowenstein. I don't want to steal your thunder, Commissioner Williams, but I'm going to.
Please.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And that item will move on to City Council on March 15th.
March 15th. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Williams.
I have a quick question for staff. When an enforcement enacts, like the last one that we just had, where it starts, what is the communication between planning and development department versus enforcement? Do they let them know, and how do they let them know? When, you know, in other words, are they going to keep coming and say, oh, here's another, just for my own
Mr. Chairman, through you, planning is in direct communication with code enforcement with each case. So tomorrow the officer assigned to this particular case will be notified that the variance was approved with a modified condition, and then code enforcement will reach out to the property owner to start bringing it into compliance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Moving on to agenda item 21, project number 22-0662, applicant owner Jen Cosa Incorporated, for possible action on the following land use entitlement project requests at 1600 North Jones, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Agenda item 21A, 22-0662, VAR1, to allow 13 parking spaces where 37 are required. 21B, 22-0662, VAR2, to allow a residential adjacency setback of 18 feet where 77 feet is required. Agenda item 21C, 22-0662, SUP1, for a drive-through use. And item 21D, 22-0662, SDR1, for a major amendment to an approved site development plan review, SDR 7265, for a proposed 3,080 square foot retail and 1,695 square foot restaurant with drive-through development with waivers of the perimeter landscape buffer requirements. Could I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, as evident by the requested variances for parking and required residential adjacency setbacks, staff finds the development to be too intense for the subject site and incompatible with the surrounding area. Therefore, staff recommends denial of all entitlements. Please note additional letters of support and protest were received after publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Could the applicant or their representative please state their name?
Chairman, Commissioners, George Garcia, 1055 Whitney Ranch Drive, Suite 210. Pleasure to be before you. Walk through the project here in a minute, but let me introduce the owner and the developer that's working with him to accomplish this project. If you would introduce yourselves.
Roger Cosa, Jan Cosa, ANC, 1600 North Jones.
Robert Youssef, land developer, 7272 South El Capitan Way.
So let me walk you through the project, and I appreciate some of you taking time as we went through the briefings, and we'll incorporate some of your suggestions as I go through and talk about it. Here, this is Jones running north-south, Vegas east-west. The project site is identified here. This is essentially a site that was operating with a convenience store and a meat market, previously approved, and operating until the fire that occurred. And you can see kind of the remnant pad, and I'll show you a better picture of that. The back portion of the building is still there, currently not in use. All of this is becoming essentially an attractive kind of problem for homeless and further blight and deterioration in the area. This is the way the site looks today. You can see the battle over the graffiti. Even though it's being painted, the constant graffiti coming back. And of course, we have homeless, and they're constantly being trespassed off the property. It's signed a notice for trespassing, and Metro works with the owner to constantly try to accommodate that. What we want to do is demolish. You can see the building here. Demolish this building. Basically, clear the site, except for, of course, keeping the landscaped areas, which then would get remediated. We also want to address the walls. The walls basically will be painted with graffiti-resistant paint to help reduce that problem, plus the life and activity on the site will further diminish, hopefully, any issues with any graffiti and homeless there. We'll also add there's some columns here where we can add some stonework to basically add some character to the site as well, so we'll do that. Then so there are questions of, that site, as you saw, the existing landscaping. we're working with the constraints of the existing landscaping and where the buildings were and trying to make everything work. Is there a lot being put on the site? Yes, I think the key is, and you'll see here, what are we bringing to the neighborhood? What's the value for doing this? We're bringing $4 million worth of investment in terms of buildings. So the two buildings, $4 million worth of investment, 50 jobs, in addition to all the improvements we're talking about. So this just gives you the character of it, which you can see, I think, looks like a modern, convenience store, and then the QSR fast food restaurant with drive-through to accommodate basically things that the neighborhood needs. And the neighbors are here and attended our neighborhood meeting we held last week, and I think they'll be able to speak for themselves what they need and why they want it. But part of this is they previously had a convenience store. The meat market, so this gives them another place to eat food options. So they're looking forward to both of those. And you can see the quality, again, I think is comparable to anything you'd find in the valley. On the landscaping plan, we are, again, largely staying within the existing confines of the areas that are curbed for landscaping and kind of the building footprints that were previously approximately there. The parking, there are additional 12 spaces under the canopy, so there are actually about 25 spaces total. So the reduction is from 37 to 25 as a practical matter, not per the code. One of the comments that came up is, what are we doing with, could we add some shade trees instead of some of the palms that are out there? So this is a revised landscape plan. If you like it, I'll leave it with staff, and we'd agree to abide by it. But it adds, instead of, you can see these existing palms that were there, will have being replaced here with this plan, which now includes 3 different kinds of trees so that you get some reduced heat island effect and you get more shade. So there's basically an acacia, then there's also mesquites, western honey mesquite, and desert willows. So we'll be adding those trees and taking out quite a few of the palms actually and replacing them. As you can see here, the palms are basically all gone. So that's something additional for your consideration. So we think between the buildings, the uses and the activities, the value of what we're bringing to the community, when we sat down and explained all this to the neighborhood at a neighborhood meeting, basically we had 16 people attend the meeting last week. I have here those that signed in, as well as their responses and comments that will turn in. But all 16 were in support of the project. There was nobody opposed. So they're, I think, eager. I also know that to the east and west, or to the north and east of us, we have RPD 10. Those are those homes. They're a homeowners association. Make up most of this. The president of the association is here with us tonight, along with some of the neighbors. They have additional petitions that they circulated. But I will turn in the signatures we have from the neighborhood meeting, as well as their comments. But every one of them is basically checked. This is a great addition to our neighborhood and will be compatible. So with that, turn it in. And if you have any questions, we'll come back to those, but also know that the neighbors want to speak.
Thank you very much. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, I'll turn this over to the... Oh, there's one. All right, sir, come on forward.
Sorry for the delay.
That's okay.
So, there is a...
I'm sorry, what's your name, sir?
My name is Soli Valiciano. I'm on the board of Rock Creek Manor, which borders with him in 2 of his sides. And the other 2 are Vegas Drive and Jones Boulevard. I would like to submit just one picture of what is. This is the good picture after we removed like about a 300-person encampment. I call it encampment because they had tents, they had services, they had security. They would harassing anybody who would go by. I was afraid of like even getting in there to check what's going on. And I assure you, I would not like put any objection because of 1 or 2 palm trees to this wonderful development. It's going to look like it's going to be a 24-hour operation. with people going in and out all the time rather than homeless people. I have no problem with the landscaping bordering our community, and none of the residents also objected. I even have my roommate here with me. And we did a neighborhood kind of meeting, and everybody was completely for it. I hate to sound like a capitalist, but it will improve our property values by a lot. And just on the other, across on Lake Mead and Jones, they just opened a small mini mall, let's call it, and Starbucks is already operating there. So with Mr. Rogers' improvement, I will be very happy, and many, many homeowners and residents.
Your petition.
Thank you very much, sir.
He's got, yeah. Well, he basically has a series of signatures, petitions to turn in. How many do you think you approximately have?
I was counting about like 60 of them.
Okay, so approximately 60, and we'll turn these in for the records, people that the HOA basically obtained.
Yeah, and those are the ones who attended the meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
and I'm sure I don't believe anybody will turn down the project that Mr. Rogers is offering.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your public comment. Anyone else wishing to offer comment at this time?
I am Robert Youssef. I'm the land developer for Mr. Kosa, and I have built many, many stores in your area. One of them was Craig and Rancho, which we had 5 parking spots, and most of the people, whenever they come to a gas station, I'll say 90%, 95% of them, they just park at the pump and they go inside the store. We had 4,500 square feet on Rancho and Craig and Rancho, and we had a restaurant, and we had a big store, and we had like 5 parking spots, and we never had a problem for anybody parking there, and that's in your city. So by having 12 parking positions and by having another 13 parking positions, I don't think there's going to be any problem whatsoever just to solve the parking problem. Plus the building looks beautiful, and it's beautification for the area, basically.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just in closing, Mr. Chairman, since people took the time to come down, I'd ask all those neighbors who came down to stand up in support of the project. Thank you. Thank you, and also indicate many of these people will walk to this as well. They walked to the meat market before, so I think there's a lot of people in this. We also have a bus stop immediately in front of the property, so this is a very walkable, sustainable kind of operation. Thank you.
Thank you, folks, for being here this evening. Seeing no further public comment, I will close the public hearing and turn this over to the Planning Commission, beginning again with Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would yield to hear any additional commentary from my fellow commissioners on this.
I don't see any.
Thank you. I'm actually prepared to make a motion on this, but I do want to say I appreciate the additional due diligence to the applicant, and of course, Mr. Garcia, thank you for giving me an opportunity to really understand what you guys were looking to do here. I am very familiar with this project site and the location, and so at this time, I'm going to make a motion to approve item 220662A through D, subject to staff's conditions. You agree to all the conditions?
Mr. Chairman, through you, we do agree to the conditions as recommended by staff.
All right, just for a point of clarification before we move forward, there was representations tonight that there was a changed landscape plan. Is that correct, Mr. Garcia?
That's correct. I was going to ask. Thank you.
Okay. So what we're voting on right now is the approval, is the items as noticed in the agenda. So any landscape plan that was shown tonight is not what we're voting on, but you are going to...
We're proffering that as in discussions with some of the commissioners. They thought that would be helpful to have the heat island reducing effect.
Okay. So you will work with staff between now and City Council to submit the revised landscape plan?
I've already submitted it, and we'll be happy to spend more time with staff refining before the meeting.
All right. So again, the vote is what's been noticed, but there is a promise or an intention to provide an additional or a revised landscape plan between now and Planning Commission. So
One more thing, Mr. Chairman.
Nope, we're all done. Thanks very much. There's a motion on the floor, unless Mr. Lewis has any concerns. None. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your vote. That motion carries.
And Mr. Chair, that will move on to City Council on March 15th.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 22-0672, applicant owner Art of Barbering LLC for possible action on the following land use entitlement project requests at the southeast corner of Miller Avenue and Martin Luther King Boulevard, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Agenda item 22A, 22-0672 VAR1 to allow a 15-foot tall monument sign where 10 feet is allowed. 22B, 22-0672 SDR1 for a proposed two-story, 8,535 square foot business school and office development with waivers of the perimeter landscape buffer requirements, to not orient the building to the corner and street frontages where such is required, and to allow a loading zone at the street frontage where required to be placed on the site interior. Could I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is proposing to overdevelop the site, which has resulted in waivers of the design standards and a variance to allow a monument sign to exceed height limitations set forth by Title 19. Staff is recommending denial of both the variance and the site development plan review. Please note that there are additional letters of protest received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could the applicant please state your name for the record?
Jason Mayhew and Royal Byron, the owner. We're trying to develop this corner property that he has. He's looking to relocate his barber school from his existing location that he's been at for a very long time to a new location, and he owns the property, so that's the whole purpose of this development, was to relocate the barber school and then add a few retail office area spaces also. So if you have questions, more than happy to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayhew. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to offer comment? Seeing none, I will turn this over to the Planning Commission. Again, Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask the applicant to, consider, my recommendation here was to consider at least a 30-day abeyance so we can meet. I would like to visit the site and just get a better understanding of this project and really understand what you guys intend to do here, if you'd be open to that. Okay.
Could you just say on the record whether you're in agreement with that?
Yes, I'm fine with that. I appreciate the invitation. Again, my name is Royal Byron, and I'm the owner of Nevada's first barber school. Just fortunately, within the making, the landlord where I'm at took very ill, passed away on New Year's Day, and the family is working with me. I've been a great tenant, never in 16 years, never been late. I had this opportunity to try to do something, which was 4 years ago. The opportunity didn't land. Once COVID hit, fell on deaf ears, and I just needed some type of restructuring. My main objective is
okay, hold on, Mr. Byron. The request from Commissioner Williams is just to come back in 30 days so that he can meet with you and understand the project more completely. Is that something you agree with?
Yes.
All right, thanks very much. Commissioner Williams.
All right. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to obey item 220672 for at least 30 days to the next Planning Commission meeting, which is
March
14th.
March 14th.
March 14th.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Moving on to agenda item 2322-0675, applicant Western Trades Construction LLC, owner Square Trade Holdings LLC, for possible action on the following land use entitlement project requests on the east side of 9th Street, approximately 50 feet south of Wilson Avenue, Ward 5. Staff recommends approval. Agenda item 23A, 22-0675 WVR1, waiver to allow the backing of motor vehicles onto a public street from a parking area where such is prohibited. 23B, 22-0675 SDR1, site development plan review for proposed two-story, 8-unit multifamily residential development with waivers of Appendix F, interim downtown Las Vegas development standards for Area 2. Could I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed multifamily development is at a scale that is compatible with adjacent properties. This development promotes the goals of the Vision 2045 Downtown Master Plan and the Downtown Las Vegas Area Plan of the Las Vegas 2050 Master Plan. Therefore, staff recommends approval of both entitlements. Please note an additional letter of protest was received after publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here this evening? Come on down. If you could just state your name for the record, please, and let us know what you'd like to say.
Charlie Conkaby with Western Trades Construction Representative. This property or this project was approved a couple years ago, and then things were put on hold due to COVID, and so we're just trying to getting things back rolling again. Same project.
Thank you very much, sir. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to offer comment? I don't think that's a comment. It's a concern. Thanks, Seth. Seeing no comments, I will close public hearing and turn it over to the Planning Commission. Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Prepared to make a motion on this project.
Does anyone wish to offer any comment before we do that, or any concerns?
If I may.
Commissioner Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask you about your landscape plan. In your supporting documents, it looks like you've only got, and I may be reading it wrong, but it looks like you only have 4 trees for the entire project. You have 4 flowering plums, and the rest look like they're shrubs. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I don't have that, to be honest, right in front of me.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm reading it, and I guess I'm just, as everybody knows, a little concerned about shade and making sure that projects are walkable. And so I don't know, per my prior comments, if I'm able to suggest or request that possibly additional trees be added, but I don't want to I don't want to do that if that's not an appropriate request.
Why don't you just let us know what you want to hear, and then we can hear from staff.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chair. I would just would like to hear whether or not we could request the applicant add in some additional shade trees around the sort of walkable portions of the proposed project to be able to, again, provide that minimization of heat island impact and the ability for there to be some shade trees to support potential passive cooling in these units.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Taylor.
Oh, that was my request.
Okay. So, Mr. Floyd, could you just address the landscape plan and what they've submitted?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if we've got the ability to show it on the screen here, but their landscape plan does show the 4 24-inch box trees, essentially 2 on either end of the project. And as Commissioner Taylor mentioned, the rest are a variety of shrubs according to the landscape plan. But there are 4 trees, 24-inch box, purple leaf plums that are shown on their landscape plan.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. One moment. Staff looking at planning condition number 7, it says an exception is hereby approved to allow 0 24-inch box trees within perimeter landscape buffers. Do we need to amend that, or is this outside the perimeter landscape buffer?
We could amend that. This does go to City Council. We could work with the applicant in between now and City Council to possibly add some more trees where it'd be feasible.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Through the chair, if I may just add one thing for Commissioner Taylor, is that we have gone in and asked applicants to upsize to a 36-inch box tree, just so, you know, it's an infill project, kind of starts it off a little faster to help those things and concerns that you brought up. So that's one thing we have done in the past.
Okay.
Just to note.
Thank you, Commissioner Cherry. I just feel like the project still is a little bit short on actual shade trees, but again, I don't know if that's a condition that can be amended as written before. Anyway, that's still my concern, but definitely the 36-inch box trees I think would help as well.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Taylor. We'll hold that thought and turn it over to Commissioner Schlattman for a moment.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you. Question for the applicant. Do you have a Chrissy that works at your company?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just if you'll follow up with her, we may have accidentally scheduled our meeting for Thursday of this week, and if it was to discuss this project, we probably should cancel that meeting. But if it's in regards to future projects that you are going to be bringing to Planning Commission, I'll still hold that, just so have her reach out to me to confirm if she's still meeting with me this Thursday.
You bet.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Schlattman. Commissioner Cherry.
Through the chair, I am inclined to support the application tonight, like it was previously approved before, just so Commissioner Williams knows.
Thank you, Commissioner Cherry. Commissioner Williams, I'll leave this up to you, but I would just suggest amending planning condition number 7 to reflect 4 24-inch, unless the applicant is willing to put 36-inch box trees in.
Don't have any opposition on that?
Okay. Condition number 7 to read, to allow 4 36-inch box trees within perimeter landscape buffers where 12 trees are required. That would be my suggestion, and with that, I would support this application.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve item 220675, A and B, with the additional conditions, adding the 4 36-inch box trees, and you agree to those conditions?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And that's 23B, condition 7.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. And that motion carries. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. And that item will move on to City Council on March 15th.
Agenda item 24, project 22-0679 VAR1, applicant owner Milton R. Gant for possible action on the land use entitlement project request to allow a 4-foot separation from the main dwelling unit where 6 feet is required and to be located in front of the main dwelling unit where such is not allowed for a proposed accessory structure garage at 609 Artie Street, Ward 1. Staff recommends denial. Could I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, staff finds this to be a self-imposed hardship as the accessory structure can be constructed following Title 19 requirements. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the variance. Please note that there are additional letters of support received since publication. Thank you.
Sir, please state your name.
Milton Gant, 609 Artie Street.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just trying to, I've got a pod storage building that's been there now for 6 years. Just want to build a garage so I can park my vehicle inside. My truck was actually stolen about 6 years ago. I've lived in this neighborhood, in this house, for over 50 years. So I've grown up in this neighborhood, and I know all the neighbors. I had the neighbors sign a document. I don't know if you guys have a copy of it, all in approval of it.
Do you have a copy of that? Thanks very much.
Yeah, that's their signatures and their address, and then I have a map of the houses that I went to. They're all my direct neighbors.
Okay. If we could get the aerial camera, please. Thank you. Thank you for showing that.
The one with the stars, my residence.
Thank you, sir. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
There's just a lot of houses in the neighborhood that have, I understand that the issue is, the actual structure, the walls of the garage and the house are 6 feet apart. What they're saying is 4 feet is actually the overhang of the roof. So the structure of the building, if you look on the drawing, are 6 feet apart. There are several homes in the whole Charleston Heights area where they have actually connected carports that connect to the house on both sides and span over the garage, over the parking area, which to me is more of a fire concern than a garage that's totally separate from the house. So that's about all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Gant. If you could please give those 2 documents to Mr. Lewis. Thanks. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to offer comment? Seeing none, I will turn this over to the Planning Commission. This is here in Ward 1, which is my ward. Do any members of the Planning Commission have anything to say regarding this item? All right, I am ready to make a motion for approval subject to staff's conditions. Do you agree with all of those conditions, sir?
I don't know what they are, but I don't see any issues. I can't imagine they'd be too difficult.
Okay. If you could take a moment, just sit down and look at the conditions that are on the staff report. If the staff could provide those conditions, please. Do you have a copy of this? No. All right. Hold on one second. Mr. Gann, have you had an opportunity to review those conditions with Mr. Lewis?
Yes, I agree, John.
All right, thank you so much. All right, make a motion for approval subject to all of staff's conditions.
Chair, I'm sorry, our system is freezing up. Could we do a verbal, please?
Yes, please. Could you just read the roll?
Chair Rogan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cherry,
Yes.
Commissioner Slotman,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Kusama,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gann.
Thank you.
And that is final action tonight unless appealed to the city clerk in 10 days.
Agenda item 25, 22-0683 VAR1, owner applicant NV Home LLC for possible action on a land use entitlement project request to allow a building height greater than 2 stories where a maximum of 2 stories is allowed for a proposed rooftop deck at 1690 South Valadez Street, Ward 2. Staff recommends denial. Could we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, staff finds the variance request to be a self-imposed hardship and outside the realm of NRS Chapter 278 of granting variances. Therefore, staff recommends denial. Please note additional letters of protest were received after publication. Thank you.
Could the applicant please state your name?
My name is Christopher Cave, and I'm the general contractor and developer for this project, and also the one who applied for the variance. Unfortunately, my client couldn't be here. He had an emergency out of state, so I'm speaking on his behalf too. But I also like to add to staff that the revised site plan, for some reason, the site plan didn't upload correctly originally, and so I believe I need to make that statement.
I'm sorry, do you have a revised site plan this evening?
I was talking to...
Mr. Chairman, through you, yes, there was a digital complication when the site plan was uploaded. I have conferred with the applicant, and the site plan he is submitting right now is correct. So we will add that to the record.
Okay, and so this is the site plan we'd be voting on this evening? Okay, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say, sir?
I do. So I'm going to try to explain to all you guys what the commissioners of what we're trying to do. This is a second floor patio balcony right here, and we're trying to add this 12-foot continuous spiral staircase to the third floor rooftop, or you call it a second floor rooftop or a third floor. It's not really a story, but ultimately what I'm trying to say is the third floor is going to have a 500 square foot decking on top of it, and the second floor rooftop, the maximum height of it is actually at 28 feet. And the maximum height for the rural estates is 35 feet. And so I want to show you here on your Uniform Development Code 19.06 Rural Estates District Table 3B actually shows right here that the maximum flat roof maximum height is actually 35 feet. We're only at 28 feet. So if I was 6 foot tall, I'm still under the 35-foot limit at that. I just hope you approve the variance today. And us as general contractors, we're building these modern homes. These are going to be common for you. We're going to be coming here a whole lot because a lot of us in these high-end homes, these modern homes, are having rooftop decks for looking for special events, for maybe looking at the Strip or for New Year's Eve. And
And
We're just trying to make the city a little bit more beautiful, building nicer homes. And I'm ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to offer comment? All right, everyone just come on down. Sir, if you could just please step aside. Okay. Folks, if you all want to offer comment, please just come and line up so you're ready to go.
First of
Could
all,
we get the timer for 2 minutes, please? Thank you. You have 2 minutes, sir.
my name is Abraham Kitchkarian. Happy Valentine's to all the ladies, everybody actually. I have two things. When we moved to Vegas 35 years ago plus, me and my wife bought that property. We're still here. She's not with us any longer, but I have two kids. I want to build a house because of her dreams. The only thing I'm objecting here right now is that I don't want any over-towering my property, the house that I like to build and live in. Actually, hopefully my kids continue living in. Before you guys make a decision, please consider if a neighbor comes in, builds a house over-towering in a residence. When we bought it, it was a residential classified whatever to be residential, and all the houses that are built there, they blend in to one another, and I don't like, again, I haven't verified the plans, but I would appreciate if I don't have a neighbor looking over my property.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
May I address his issue?
One moment, please, sir. Come on forward.
Hi, I'm Nicole Rose. I have the house that's adjacent to the subject property. Ours is a neighborhood of single-story and two-story homes. It's a nice older neighborhood. A three-story home in our neighborhood is just not a good fit. I'm also concerned that it's being built by somebody who's not actually going to be a community member, stay in the home, and be a neighbor. I'm concerned that a home of that height impacts both the enjoyment of my home because of the amount of light that it blocks from a privacy standpoint. I also am a little confused about the site plan that Chris Cage put up because it indicates that part of the dwelling is being built on an easement for the neighboring properties. We also looked at the site plan and the building plans, and it looks like the building is 39 feet, not 28 feet in height. So I'd like to get some clarification about that. So I came tonight to just cast my vote saying I think ours is a two-story neighborhood and we should stay with the two-story neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Sir, go ahead.
Hi, Charlie Rose, husband, live next door. The only thing I want to add, other than I don't agree with the type of home that's being built, because it's not the same as everything else, but in the southeast corner, the footings are already in, or the framing's in, and it's approximately 6 feet or more already above the street. So you add the 40 feet on top of that, you got a commercial-looking building sitting next door to us, and it's all going to look down on everybody's property. So that's my input.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Sir?
My name is Lloyd Hook. I'm in the neighborhood above said property, and my personal property actually sees over top where we have a city view. The name of our community is City View Estates. Our biggest concern is that we're going to lose our view so they can gain a view. I'm opposed to any variances to make the building taller than what's allowable.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Seeing no other members of the public wishing to offer comment, I'm going to turn it back over to the applicant to address any issues that were raised.
I think that some of the people that are here think that we're actually building a 3-story house. We're only actually at 2-story. We have no exterior walls, no interior walls, no roof, and no ceilings. We are still at the 28 feet. So I'm not sure where they got the thought that we're going 39 feet. My elevation on my ceiling lids for the plans specifically say 28 feet. Also, I'm not sure if you're aware, but our site plan, we're a half-acre lot. 3 sides of our house are all streets. So we're on Oakey, Valadez, and Valadez Circle, And the only lot that's to the east of us is raw land, so we're not really seeing anybody. And then, what else? I know and then the civils, he's worried about our house being so high. We're actually required by code to be 2 feet above the street level because of flooding, so that's required by civil. So there's nothing we can do about that. And unfortunately, we also know we have a right to own land, but we also don't have a right to our views because everybody can block everybody's views because every house down there is daisy chains on that. But besides that, we're only building a 2-story house. We're not. It's three floors, but no stories. There's nothing on top of the roof at all. And any other questions I may be able to help you? I'm trying to upset the neighbors or anything. We're just trying to build houses. And also, our house is modern homes. One street to the south, there's 3 modern homes are being built right now at this time. It's already been approved.
Thank you very much, sir. No, sir. Public comments closed. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Sir, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much. I'll turn this over to the Planning Commission, starting with Commissioner Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, just when I think I'm learning things as we go through the commission here, you learn some new things. One of the topics that came up on this particular property variance was the legal definition of deck. Okay, so at that point, I guess there is no, and I'd like to make sure for the record that that is true. There's no legal definition of deck in Title 19.
Do you mean?
In Title 19, it addresses usable floors, so we don't specifically refer to the deck terminology, but because that rooftop is going to be actually usable and habitable, it becomes a 3rd floor.
Right, and I think that's one of the issues that came up, and I think that's probably where the individuals that spoke here just a minute ago were thinking it was going to go to a 3rd level, when in fact it's not. It's going to stay at the 2 level, conforming to what they have in the community. As of today's date, this is the first time I've heard any complaints about it, and I checked with the councilwoman's office as well. There had been no complaints that were registered in the Ward 2 office. So the property and the project does meet the provisions of what we're talking about there. So I'll wait to issue a motion for right now, pending anyone's discussion.
Does anyone else wish to offer any comments? Not seeing any. Commissioner Walsh.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the variance for 2-0683-VAR1 to approve the variance and any items that are conditions that are required and need for that.
You agree to the conditions, sir?
I do.
All right, there's a motion for approval on the floor. Please cast your votes. Commissioner, thank you. And that motion carries.
Thank you.
And that item is final action tonight unless appealed to the city clerk in 10 days.
Agenda item 26, 22-0701, applicant owner Founders Classical Academy of Las Vegas for possible action on the following land use entitlement project requests at 5730 West Alexander Road, Ward 5. Staff recommends approval. 26A, 22-0701, SUP1 for proposed alternative parking analysis to allow 186 parking spaces where 249 are required. 26B, 22-0701, SUP2 for a major amendment to an approved special use permit, SUP 65910, to allow 1,467 students where 750 were previously allowed for an existing public or private school primary use. 26C, 22-0701, SUP3 for a major amendment to an approved special use permit, SUP 65911, to allow 1,467 students where 750 were previously allowed for an existing public or private school secondary use. Agenda item 26D, 22-0701, SDR1 for a major amendment to an approved site development plan review, SDR 65912, for a proposed 2-story, 27,200 square foot addition to an existing 67,126 square foot primary and secondary school development. Could I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, staff finds the proposed building and classroom addition to the existing primary and secondary school campus to be compatible with the existing and future surrounding uses. Therefore, staff recommends approval of site development plan review 22-0701-SDR1 and associated special use permits. Please note there are additional letters of support received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could the applicant or representative please state your name?
I'm Mac McKnight, 4310 Plumeria Mist, representing the principal. We agree with staff, and we did have a neighborhood meeting on January 19th. At that time, everybody was in favor. There was no issues. We request to continue approval of our submittal.
Thank you very much, sir. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to offer comment?
Yeah.
Come on down, sir.
Hi. My name's Ron Petroni. We own some businesses directly across the street. The traffic during drop-off and pickup is incredible already. Okay, you can't leave our parking lot at 7:30 unless I shove my way out there illegally to try to leave our parking lot. And this happens at 7:30 in the morning, whenever drop-off is, I don't know what time, somewhere in there, and around 2:30 in the afternoon. Now, I don't know what can be done with that, because now what we're saying is we're going to take away over 60 spaces of parking on their property, and now we're going to double the amount of students that are coming to this property. I have video. I don't know how I can show it to you, or I don't know if, is this your area, Mr. Williams?
Sir, could you just please direct your comments?
Okay,
please?
I don't know if it's Mr. Williams' area or whatever, but if it is, I would like somebody to come out and maybe view this, because it is a steady stream east to west from Rancho to Alexander to their entrance, and it's a steady stream coming west from Decatur for a good 20 minutes or more. And it's just cars upon cars upon cars, and it's ridiculous. And there's nothing to help other businesses out there if people are trying to leave their establishment and get back into their establishment. So I don't know what kind of traffic study has been done on this, but it's already kind of a hindrance during those times of the day. And I don't know if you guys are going to recommend a traffic study for this and something else to be done, but I know that some of my wife's clients have mentioned it's a real pain in the rear to get in and out of there during those times of the day. So now, again, I'm saying you're taking away room for vehicles, and we're going to add 750 more students. There's no busing. So if each student is one person, one parent, we got 750 more vehicles coming in. Let's just half that, another 350, 400. You know, it's a lot. So I would really like for a recommendation to be made, if it can be, that they really look at this, you know, and I mean, you know, I know money is money in this town. I've been here all my life, but hopefully for the smaller guys like us with our smaller establishments across the street, you know, if that could be really looked at and somehow addressed, I don't know what that could be. That's on you guys. I don't know where that goes, you know what I mean? But we'd really appreciate that.
Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman Jim Lewis down here, other side.
Oh,
sorry, I'm switching to help the new commissioners. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I might suggest that maybe Lucian talk about, looks like conditions 10 and 11, which relate to traffic study updates, and maybe that will help everybody here understand what's going on.
Lucian?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. So currently, Founders Academy has an approved traffic study for the number of students that they have today. And actually, before this site came before you, we did a one-day visit of the site and noticed it was operating effectively, sufficiently for the queuing. Part of the conditions, as Jim was mentioning, is we will require a traffic study on any of the applications. So the SUPs, I think it's above 990 students. When they go above that, we have to go to 2 bell times. So we know with what they're requesting, it's not going to work with 1 bell time. So technically, the time period of when school, travelers will be there will actually stretch out and be longer because there'll be 2 bell times as it increases. We also, once they go to 2 bell times, we have a 60 days after opening, we have a administrative review of the traffic operations pickup and drop off, and we have a period of time where we can have them correct any things that aren't working. So if they're not queuing appropriately on site, or if they're not using the crosswalks and that type of thing. Obviously, our biggest thing is safety. It's most important to us. But our initial review of it is we're recommending approval because we think it can work with the 2 bell times. So yeah, there'll be a traffic study as part of the expansion. When they come in for building permits for the expansion portion of the SDR is when the new traffic study will be required, or the update to the already approved traffic study.
Okay, so just so I can be clear, there will be a traffic study upon approval, and then after that, there'll be 60 days to do an administrative review. I'm a little bit confused about that.
So once they open the addition, so they don't need to do an update. We already have, like I was saying, we have an approved study already today.
Okay.
What they'll be doing is updating the study to reflect the new numbers when it's warranted. So as it's operating today, nothing's needed. When they go to expand with this current SDR that you see today, before they get permits for that, they need to get an approved study.
Okay.
Until that study is approved, they don't get any permits for the expansion. When it's approved and starts to be occupied, we will go out and review the operations 60 days after they've, usually when school starts, you give them at least a couple weeks to get into the flow of school, and then we'll look at it. We say 60 days, within the 60 days, how it's operating, and try to remedy anything that, from the theory, doesn't work in the practice. Because with the traffic study update, they'll have to, in theory, show how it should function appropriately and mitigate it so that it works.
Thank you, Lucian. Thank you very much.
So what I'm hearing is now we're going to have 2 bell times, so now we're going to extend this mayhem for another 20 to 30 minutes because of the second bell time, a second arrival and departure time. So this is what you guys are telling us as owners there and the other people that live in that area.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. We've heard your comments. Does anyone else wish to offer comment? No, you can have a seat, sir. Thank you so much. There's one more person. Come on down.
Hi, I'm Sherry Petroni. I own Oasis to Zen Spa, which is across the street from them as well. So there's a couple of places straight across on Alexander that I can't get out of for most of the time periods because they're parking and then they're waiting in the street because they go around the circle and come back out, but they start about an hour ahead of time. So I don't know about the morning because I'm usually already in there, but when I'm coming through, sometimes they block Leon, which is to their east side. And there is one woman that's there sometimes. There's only one crosswalk. So if you're not going down there, there are people that park across the street in our parking places as well in Alexander. And they aren't supposed to, and I know that the school has asked them not to. But they park, they go across the street, and then run back across. And it's crazy. I know that's 15 miles an hour, but I'm worried about the kids because they are running across with their parents. Also, as you go past Leon, it's all residential, 2 lanes, 1 each way, and there's nowhere to park because there's no improvements, so there's no sidewalks and so forth. So I feel like as people are going longer down that road, it's blocking the road completely because there's not enough room for them to park and people to get by safely. So I'd really like that to be looked at from another perspective of maybe not just the numbers or how thoroughly they're getting people through, but what the rest of the people are experiencing while we're there. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Patron. All right. Seeing no other members of the public wishing to offer comment, I'm going to close public comment and turn it over to the Planning Commissioner, beginning with Commissioner Williams, and perhaps you can address some of these issues that have been raised.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess another question for the traffic study that was performed. Were the additional concerns that were just mentioned outside of just counts? Were there additional concerns observed? Did you guys see anything that impacted safety? I'm just curious. I know you were out and looked at the whole operation, but
Sure. Commissioner Williams, you're the chair. What we did when we looked at like a month ago, we looked at if it was operating safely, and we noticed there's some things that happen at schools, and it is a 15-mile-an-hour zone, and it is busy during, the school hour. But from our, again, cursory review, it didn't appear that there was, major things that we thought this addition would cause or exacerbate a situation there. I don't have the traffic study in front of me, and I haven't reviewed it for this meeting. I just know that we have an approved study for what they're already using, and that we are requiring a new study with any new addition.
Thank you. Any additional comment from fellow commissioners on this?
Commissioner Cherry.
Through the chair, I would ask, I guess, the applicant, there seems to be at some of these schools that are infill, like I live one in a neighborhood, and so I know every day at certain times, like there's just going to be traffic, right? So that's just something I've kind of resided to. That's where I live, and others might be upset at that, but there seems to be like best practices within the school operation that gets conveyed out to the parents in some of these schools, and then actually take effect. For example, if it's something where the city comes out once, maybe the onus should be on you guys coming out every 90 days to really participate with the parents more to enact a plan so neighbors don't get really inundated with this stuff. Because I think on your best day, it's a tough thing. It just is. I live it every single day. So it would be interesting if you guys have discussed that, if that's something you could share. If not, maybe that's something you need to come back with in conversation.
Absolutely.
There we go. I'm Ron Fick. I'm a principal at Founders Classical Academy here in Las Vegas. Yes, this is something we regularly talk to our parents about the importance of not blocking any of the roads or anything. There's a lot of restrictions to our school in particular. We are in the NARA residential zone. NARA has pretty strict rules as far as their community. They've been very supportive of our school and our school's growth. Also, in front of our school, there's no on-street parking that's allowed, or across the street. There is some on-street across the street, but no on-street on our side of the street. So there's some restrictions along there to keep the traffic moving. We use a car line system that's through Pick My Kid, which a lot of these schools that have these rotating car lines as far as charter schools use. It's very, very effective. We have around 900 kids that are using, and families that are using that. A lot of our families do carpool, not the first couple weeks of the school year, but after the first couple weeks of the school year, once that kind of kiss and go thing goes away, a lot of our folks do carpool. Yes, there is busy times, probably from about 7:10 to about 7:30. It gets some busy times for us, and there's a lot of traffic coming in and out, but we have people out in our parking lots making sure that individuals are compliant. We reach out to Metro regularly to ensure that Metro officers are out there honored about our property. We have a lot of Metro officers and fire department folks that actually go to our school as well, so they've been very cooperative, and I know the NARA people as well. So there's plenty of things that we're doing to because our school is about virtue, about doing the right thing and being good community neighbors, and I think we've worked really hard with the NARA group to do that. We're super supportive of them, and they of us. The two-sided car line, we're around 900 kids right now. Going to 2 car lines, even at our maximum number, will drop us down by about 700, so the volume's going to slow down as we move through those car lines, which should slow some of that backup that we see around 7:15 to 7:20 that will catch just the side of Alexander as the turn into our school actually gets a little bit bound up. But those are all things that we work on each and every day. We do not have a lot of walkers. We do have a lot of kids that actually do drive in, and families that drive in. We don't allow our kids to walk home unless they're 12 years old or older. So kind of strict rules at our school because of safety in the neighborhood. We have asked for and are waiting for final approval for a crossing guard at our crossing guard area. So that will be helpful to us as well because we too are concerned about safety. We continue to work in those particular areas. And we certainly have always been open to the city and private contractors or whatever to come out to analyze our particular car line to make sure that it's an effective and as efficient as possible because we want to be good members of the community. And we feel like we provide high-quality seats, and I think the State Public Charter School Authority would agree, high-quality seats to the 89130 zip code, and we want to continue to do that, continue to grow. Just for a point of information so you're aware, our school has around 900 kids in our school and about 1,200 kids on the wait list. So it is a school that kids want to go to and families want to go to, and they make big commitments to do that, and they understand that they have to follow the rules of the car line and not be disruptive to our school's community and the area around us.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Kasama.
Hi, I just want to make, so this is actually more of a question for one of the community members who gave comment on this item. I believe it was the owner for Oasis to Zen Spa. Because it's also great to hear from the applicant about all the work that you're doing and, understanding some of the traffic concerns and also the safety component. It's great to hear that you're applying for the other crosswalk or crossing guard. But regarding to the Oasis to Zen, I was just curious if you have had conversations with the landlord. I've experienced this with my own office space where, we had to request with the landlord to put signs saying that this is reserved parking, that, it could be towed, just a way to give you recourse. I was just curious if that is part of your parking arrangement for your business, if you have, yes. Mm-hmm.
Just for the record, we'll reopen public comment to answer the question. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, we're all business owners in the complex, and so Mr. Petroni happens to be the business owner, I guess, association president or whatever. So by proxy, we're all here to represent them, the two of us. Secondly, we do have all of them marked. We each only have 3 parking spaces, so it gets really wild. So regardless of whether they are marked or not, everybody parks wherever they want. That's the reality, So, but I do worry when I watch the parents running across the street with the kids. Also, once they hit the sidewalk, it's just people are turning everywhere, and then it's no longer a thing. And yes, the police are there a lot. They sit in our parking spot, and they hit people with tickets all day, all throughout that time. And so there is that aspect as well. I feel like something more could be done, though. I would love to see someone out there like saying, you guys can come for a while, you need to stop, because it is only a 2-lane road. Then it narrows in as soon as you get past Leon. So that's where I was talking about, that the road is so thin and narrow. Yes, there is no way to worry about it, except for there is no marking of 2 roads or 2 lanes on each side, and it is everybody's sort of every which way, but really considerate. So I worry about turning in left into my parking to go into my facility, because it's that middle area where they're coming out and coming straight at me sometimes. So there should be some way that because we're not part of NARO, because we're businesses, so we don't get that opportunity. So perhaps that could be something we could be involved in, since we're right there. So.
No, I appreciate it.
Everything. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on.
No problem. No, I appreciate it. And then just for the applicant.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand what she's saying. Yeah, I do understand. I know it's hard for you to understand what's going on at this kind of. A lot of traffic decisions are made sometimes, and I wonder why they were made. I know that we have that housing division next to us that has a no U-turn in a school zone, and the U-turn to get into their housing division in front of our driveway. There's always people that are violating the law when it comes to traffic. We do have a lot of Metro out there. It's just because I guess we have a lot of friends at Metro who are willing to come out and spend a little time in front of our school. I know that in the past, plenty of times, I personally, and I know my assistant principal, Mr. Donatelli, has went across the street and actually been in your parking lot to make sure that people are not pulling into your parking lot. I know that along Leon, along that street, that we do have some individuals who try to park along there to get their kids out early to circumvent car line. I'll do anything I have to do. I'll personally park my car over there to make sure that they don't do that, because we are about integrity and making sure that we're doing those things correctly. So I'm happy to work with the folks across the street. They certainly know our number. They certainly know where we're at, and nobody at our building would turn them away. If we were looking to be a better community neighbor or a better business neighbor, to go ahead and make sure that our parents are not doing anything that is basically contrary to what the city has already said that we should be doing. Our parents should be dropping off on the property, utilizing the car line unless they're walkers. That's really kind of all there is to it. Anybody that's not doing that certainly gets information from us and gets warnings that the city has set these rules down. You will follow these rules or you will not continue at our charter school.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, that addresses a lot of the concerns. I think the 2 bell times as well will help kind of diffuse some of the traffic issues. But no, it's great to hear that you are in communication and will be, working partners since support, more opportunities for students. Certainly we need it, but also allowing small businesses to operate as they can. No, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other comments from other planning commissioners, so I'm going to turn it back to you, Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've heard a lot of discussion about this issue. Obviously, we've talked about it, and I think, at the end of the day, this is something that I can definitely support, and it's nice and encouraging to hear that, in the spirit of being good neighbors and being responsible to the businesses around you, that the lines of communication remain open. So I'm actually ready to make a motion in support of staff's recommendation for approval on item 22-0701 A through D. Motion for approval.
And sir, you agree to all the conditions?
Yes, we do.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. That motion carries. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, that item will move on to City Council on March 15th.
All right, agenda item 27, 22-0704 SUP1 applicant Value Market owner Value LLC for possible action on a land use entitlement project request for a proposed 2,600 square foot alcohol off-premise full use at 1510 East Sahara Avenue, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Can we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the alcohol off-premise full use is proposed for an existing convenience store at the subject site. Staff finds the use can be conducted in a harmonious and compatible manner with the existing surrounding land uses. Therefore, staff recommends approval. Please note additional letters of support and protest were received after publication. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Chairman, Commissioners, George Garcia, 1055 Whitney Ranch Drive, Suite 210. With me is the owner and operator of the property. Nick, if you'd introduce yourself.
Nick Cosa, Value Market, 1510 East Sahara.
And then along with me is Jim DiFiore.
Jim DiFiore, business license consultant, and 8550 West Charleston Boulevard.
So I'd be happy to go into any depth certainly the commission would like, but just let me start with Mr. Cosa. Basically, before we got started on this, because we knew there might be some potential questions and wanted to make sure what the neighborhood feeling was. And while Jim was working on some of the potential ordinance changes as well, Mr. Cosa passed out and went around to the neighborhood basically and got signatures. We have 386 signatures on petitions in support of this application. So I'll turn that in for the record. Simply, we concur with staff's analysis and recommendation. We meet all the requirements under the code for the use permit or distance separation. Basically, we're outside of any conflicts as far as proximity distance separations to a religious assembly or to another liquor establishment. And with that, be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to offer a comment? Seeing none, I'll close public hearing and turn this over to the Planning Commission, starting with Commissioner Schlottman.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia, we had an opportunity to talk about this. I have real concerns with liquor stores in Ward 3 and beer and wine turning into liquor stores. I've had them in my backyard, and they've constantly been an issue. Lobbyists have got up here and promised that the operators are good people, that they're going to manage their stores and not have sign spam and not have loitering and this and that. We don't look at operators. This runs with the land. Right. And I've had a couple of these where we've approved them, and then they immediately turned around and sold them. And then it's just been issue after issue and after issue. And I'd like to call a couple of these back before us to revoke them. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of shopping centers right there, the Smiths, the Albertsons, where people can buy liquor. It shuts down at a certain hour. This would be open all hours of the night. And even if we did put a restriction on it, you're backed up into a neighborhood. Every time I look at one of these that we approve, there's people standing outside. They open the containers. The second they walk out, throw the bag on the ground and start drinking. I mean, I can't think of one of these that operates well in my ward. We were issued promises on quite a few of these others with, well, we're going to make improvements, we're going to fix up the graffiti, we're going to do all this improvements to our property, and they've all gone downhill. There's not a one of them that I've approved in 11 years that has helped the neighborhood. I don't see how this will help the neighborhood. I know you submitted that letter of support from all of these individuals, but I don't know what was said to get 300 or 200 people to sign this thing. You know, I've seen it where people put this on the counter and they tell their customers, we're selling beer and wine. How about we want to add a little bit of liquor? It doesn't tell the entire story to every person that comes in there and signs off on that letter of support. I don't feel that if everybody was informed with all the issues that comes with adding liquor, that they would have signed off on this. And if we approve this, we'll have greater issues. And I'm reminded of all of the mistakes we made by approving these in my ward. On a monthly basis, I get emails telling me how we made a lot of mistakes. I don't see any way that I could support this. I know staff, it checked all the boxes. I think staff did the right thing because it checked the boxes, but we have the ability to see what kind of impacts this will have to the greater neighborhood and how this will help. This isn't helping redevelop Sahara. How's liquor help redevelop Sahara? It doesn't. And as a 30-year planner, I don't think you can sit up here and tell me how liquor is going to help Sahara and redevelopment. So I'm opposed to this.
Mr. Chairman.
1 second, Mr. Garcia. Does anyone else wish to offer any comment? Go ahead, Mr. Garcia.
No, and certainly I appreciate those comments, and I fully understand. I mean, I can't, justify what somebody else's actions were, certainly. Mr. Kosa can tell you, as an operator, he's been at this store for some time, and granted, yes, could it be sold, but he has a family as well, so it's a family business. They've been there for many years and intend to continue. There's no neighbors here objecting. I think that's an indication. So maybe the petitions, whether you don't know or know what was said, but at least there's nobody here to object. I think that's some statement as well. But I would suggest, if you're comfortable, basically giving them the opportunity to prove themselves, and let us come back 6 months, a year on required reviews, and we'll basically prove up. Let the police department, let staff.
Mr. Garcia, I don't think that I'm ready to approve a 6-month review. How many times do we approve these items and then come back and revoke a special use permit, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years into it? I'm trying to get a couple of the others revoked, and it's almost impossible. I'm not willing to. I am sure this operator is a good person and will do a great job, but he will not own that for the next 30, 40 years. And he might not even own it for 6 months. So for all of those reasons, I can't get behind liquor in this neighborhood, which is just going to cause other issues for all the residents that live in that neighborhood.
Commissioner, just for clarification, are you just saying that this type of use, the off-premise alcohol use, is not harmonious and compatible with the residential neighborhood that's adjacent to this area?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else wish to offer any comment? We have a motion, please.
I do have a motion on item number 27, 22-0704 SUP1. I would make a motion for denial based on the testimony stated tonight.
There's a motion on the floor. A yes vote is for denial. And that motion carries.
Commissioners, thank you. I can't think of a better place to spend Valentine's than with all of you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
And Mr. Chair, that is final action unless appealed to the city clerk in 10 days.
Agenda item 22-0710 VAR1, applicant Borhan Maradi, owner Laura Irma Family Trust et al. For possible action on a land use entitlement project request to allow a 13-foot corner side yard setback where 15 feet is required for a proposed accessory structure casita at 4945 Curry, Ward 3. Staff recommends denial. Could I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, staff finds this to be a self-imposed hardship as the accessory structure was constructed without building permits and resulted in code enforcement action. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the variance. Please note there are additional letters of support and protest received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and rest of the commissioners. Thank you for spending your time, especially on Valentine's Eve, to listen to this project. My name is Borhan Muradi, and I'm here on behalf of the property owner. As you know, the cost of living has raised and interest rate has gone up. The property owner would like to build this casita for their elderly parents who come here and visit them from abroad. They decided to build this casita per code, and as you can see, the permits was applied for. The plans show that the casita is compatible with the IBC code. The original designer designed this building and assumed that there is a 10-foot setback requirement on the side yard and pushed the casita about 14 and 7.5 inches away from the sideline. We're only short of 5 inches from the sideline. Once we realized that the setback requirement is 15 feet, we applied for a variance. The property owner requests that this variance gets approved so they can build this casita for their parents. As you can see, the front of the casita is only 5 inches short of the approved setback requirement, and the lower one is about 1.5 feet. So I would like to ask the commissioner to consider this, and if you have any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer this. The casita is compatible with the existing building. The material that is going to be used is harmonious with the neighborhood and the existing dwelling on the property.
Thank you, Mr. Maradi. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to offer comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and turn it over to the Planning Commission, starting with Commissioner Schlotman.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I reviewed this item, and I see exactly what you're doing. 13'9", where 15 feet is required, so we're looking at 15 inches. I can totally get behind this. We've approved stuff that was a lot closer in the past, so if there's no other questions, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Yes, on item number 2822-0710 VAR1, I'd move to approve, subject to all staff's conditions, and you agree to all staff's conditions, sir?
Unfortunately, I'm not aware of the conditions. I didn't get a chance to review the conditions, but if I have a chance to review them quickly, I would be more than happy to conform to it.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, the conditions are reviewed, and we agree to follow this.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval, subject to all conditions. Please cast your vote. That motion carries. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day.
I always miss one. Mr. Chairman, that item is final action unless appealed to the city clerk in 10 days.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Agenda item 29, 22-0716, applicant owner Curtis L. and Karen E. Lau for a possible action on the following land use entitlement project request at 6128 Matisse Avenue, Ward 6. Staff recommends denial. 29A, 22-0716 VAR1 to allow a proposed accessory structure casita in front of the primary dwelling unit where such is not allowed, with a 19-foot front yard setback where 20 feet is required and a 0-foot distance separation from the main dwelling unit where 6 feet is required. Agenda item 29B, 22-0716 SUP1 for a proposed accessory structure, Class 1 use. Can we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, staff finds the variance request to be a self-imposed hardship and outside the realm of NRS Chapter 278 for granting variances. Therefore, staff recommends denial of both entitlements. Please note additional letters of support and protest were received after publication. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Curtis Laux, 6128 Matisse Avenue. We're looking to do the casita in the front yard to house my wife's parents as they're aging. The setbacks were all met on the drawings with the exception of 6 inches, I think. The existing structure is 20 feet from the street. The pop-out is 19. We're looking to go 19'6" with the pop-out. So we're talking 6 inches on the front. The distance between the houses, we've achieved the 6 feet distance that's required. I'm not sure where the 0 comes in that they responded to us with, unless it's the covered entry, which is nothing more than 10 other people in our neighborhood have done the exact same thing. So I'm not sure where the problem is with it.
Thank you, Mr. Laux. Did you have anything else to say?
I just got some aerial views of some of the other properties in the neighborhood that have done the exact same thing. These are all within one neighborhood. We're in an HOA. I've got approval by the HOA and the ARC committee, considering you guys approve it.
Thank you very much. If you could just provide that document to staff, sir. Thank you. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to offer comment? Seeing none, I will close public hearing and turn this over to the Planning Commission, beginning with Commissioner Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Laux, this seems like a very aesthetically attractive.
Sure, I'm speaking to you.
I'm over here.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Design, and seems, like it reasonably fits with some of the other neighborhood updates, and I am glad to hear that you received HOA approval as part of your application. I did note that there was one protest letter, and I wasn't sure if you had any concerns expressed to you by your neighbors.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I was actually surprised that you guys sent out cards, invitations to this for something that's matching the existing neighborhood.
Okay. I don't have any other questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Commissioner Taylor.
If there's no other comments, then I'd be prepared to make a motion to approve 29A 220716 variance and 29B 220716 special use permit.
Mr. Laux, you agree to all the conditions?
Oh, and with agreement to all conditions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm not aware of the conditions.
Okay, 1 second.
Sorry.
This is Jim Lewis's fault, by the way.
I'll take the mine. That's fine.
Yeah, you just want to show them where they are.
Yes, I approve of it. I agree with you.
Thank you, Mr. Laux. All right, there's a motion on the floor for approval subject to all staff conditions. Please cast your vote. Thank you. That motion carries.
And Mr. Chair, that item is final action unless appealed to the city clerk in 10 days.
Agenda item 30, project 22-0720 VAR1, applicant owner Hans Musavi for possible action on the land use entitlement project request to allow an existing 7-foot tall solid wall within the front yard setback where 5 feet with a 2-foot solid base is the maximum allowed at 711 Campbell Drive, Ward 1. Staff recommends denial. Could we have the staff report, please?
Please note that there is a correction to the advertised applicant/owner from Hans Musavi to Seidhosen Reza Zadeh Musavi. Mr. Chairman, staff has determined that the requested variance is the result of self-imposed hardship as the applicant has constructed a wall that fails to comply with archived Title 19 development standards for the RA zoning district and resulted in code enforcement action. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the variance. Please note there are additional letters of support and protest received since publication. Thank you.
Sir, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Hans Musavi. So I put these walls around my property because I have several issues and trespassing to my property. I'm sorry I didn't submit all of those evidence before along with my justification letter, but I do have all of them here, including the police report and pictures of the people who vandalized my house and all of those evidence.
If you want to submit those to the city, then we'll take them from you if you'd like.
Yeah, sure.
Before you do that, if you want to show us any pictures, just hang on to them.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Yes. So this is the picture of the police report, and this is the other picture of the police report with all of the brief description about what happened to my property. And I do have some pictures here. So I put first I put this fence around my property to secure it, but it didn't stop them. So they even cut these fences and brought their U-Haul inside my property, and they cut all of my copper pipes and electrical wires, and they were about to load all of them in this U-Haul before I catch them. So here is another picture showing the police were there and they arrest the suspect in front of their cars. And then here is another picture showing the police was inside my house, and that's what happened to my walls, and because they were trying to took all of the copper pipes. And this is another picture showing the same thing. They were showering in my property actually. And here is a fireplace. That was a copper fireplace, and they took all of the top of the fireplace. So I have another picture showing the other report to the police, and you can see the police cars are all there when I had the fence. So the last advice from the police officer was to put walls and security cameras around my property to stop all of this criminal activity. And that's why I put those fences around my property. And one of the concerns I had from the beginning from my neighbors was the visibility at the corner of my property. And since these panels are movable, as you can see here in the picture, we can lift them up and remove them. The first thing I did was removing the panels at the corner of my property. I removed 4 of those panels, so the visibility is very clear right now for the either pedestrian or the drivers. Sorry, I'm just changing the pictures fast because it's late. So that's it, I guess I explained all of that. I have a lot of more pictures to show the situation of the property right now. And since we put these walls around our property, all of the criminal activities stopped. We never had any issues after we put these walls around our property.
Thank you, Mr. Musavi. This item was noticed as a public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to offer comment? Mr. Musavi, if you and your family could just move to the side, so. Sure.
Eric King, 2601 Pinto Lane. First thing I want to know is, was a permit issued to construct this wall?
Sir, just provide your comment, and if we have the answer to your information, we'll provide it.
This item does not meet code. It's already too high. It's a 2-foot with a 3-foot screen. He's got 7 foot, and it's full. It's not open, it's not screened. It's wrong. He built it without a permit. Denial.
Hi, John Rando. I live on Camel Drive.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your name, please?
Yeah, John Rando. I live on Camel Drive. The only time that these problems occur on anywhere in our neighborhood is when a house is being rehabbed or done, as this one was. The people thought nobody lived there. Many times I was there with my service dog, and we had to explain to people, no, that that's somebody's house and they needed to move on. We've had it that trouble goes in every neighborhood. This was a fence that is built with the idea of, let's get forgiveness, not permission. It does not match any of the fences around the neighborhood. In fact, I have a picture here. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's right across the street. They don't have any fences. Those people have never had any problems. If you look here, here's down the street. All the fences that go down the street match the 2-foot and 5-foot thing. This is the thing that was built. This is another one right across the street. It's a 2-foot up with slats. They've never had any problem. This is a fence that does not belong in our neighborhood. It needs to be taken down. It wasn't permitted. And they can put up the regular fence. Before these people moved in, a man named Bob lived there. He had before they tore up the fence he had just a regular 2-foot fence and some rails across it. He never had any problem, ever. Nobody ever came into his yard. Nobody ever stole his stuff. So this is a fence that should not be permitted or allowed. Once these people move in, they can build a fence like is required, and they'll find that nobody's going to be coming in. Our neighborhood has a very, very, very low crime rate. So,
thank you, Mr. Rando.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no other members of the public, I'll close public comment and turn it over to the commission. This is in my ward. I'm very familiar with that street. In fact, probably a week before I learned that this was going to be an item, I drove by your house and said that fence is out of code. And it was quite noticeable that it was out of code. So I have concerns about it, the same concerns that the neighbors have raised. Most notably, I understand why you would want to build a wall so high to deter criminal activity, but we have codes for a reason, and that's partly to offer you the protection that you want, to have a fence, but it's also to ensure that the neighborhood looks harmonious and compatible, as is often said. And this fence really doesn't do that. In your neighborhood, we've approved wall height variances of up to 6 or 7 feet before on Pinto most recently, but they have complied with the requirement that you have a 2-foot solid base, and usually they have some sort of iron railings extending above that 2-foot solid base so that there's that opportunity to see through into that front yard. And if you came to us with something more like that, then perhaps I would be of a different opinion than what you have presented to us tonight. The other concern I have right now is it's also in the right-of-way. It's not your land that is built on, and I don't know whether the previous fence that was there was also built in that same location. Nonetheless, when you come in if you had appropriately gotten a building permit, they would have told you you can't build it where you want to build it. You have to find a location that's actually on your property. So I really am sorry, Mr. Musavi. I understand the concerns that you want to protect your family with a fence of this type, but I can't support it as you have built it. I would like to hear from other planning commissioners if they have any comments. Commissioner Williams.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of your sentiments, Mr. Chair. I just wonder, rather than a full tear down, just looking at, the adjacent wall next, the neighbor's wall is solid and pretty much the same height, it looks like to me. I just, are there modifications we can do rather than a full tear down here, or I don't know,
Excuse me, can I show you the...
One second, please, sir. Do you have any suggestions, Commissioner Williams?
I don't, because of the type of construction this is. It's hard to...
Right.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Google Maps, and it looks as though that the adjacent wall is a side wall for the property next door. It's not a front yard wall, so they have the different rules, of course.
Correct.
Mr. Musavi, you wanted to add something?
My neighbor right next to me has the same height of the wall in front of his property and in the other side of this property, which is Arabian Road. And as you can see in the picture I'm showing here, I even lowered down the height of the wall at the corner. So this picture is taken today, and I was holding the camera here in front of my chest. And all of my property is visible from that angle. And again, all I want is to prevent any criminal activity which was happening before. So I appreciate you if you can approve my variance request based on the fact that I just presented.
Thank you, Mr. Musavi. I'm not inclined to approve the request, and I will be making a motion for denial. Does anyone else wish to offer any comment? All right.
I guess my only question is, what was the investment that you made to build that wall? What did it cost you?
Almost $44,000.
$44,000.
Yes,
and
sir.
how much damage was caused when they were trying to break into your property?
It was way more than that. They destroyed the whole property.
So
they took the pool pumps, all the pipes belonged to the pool, and every single copper pipes that was in my house. And that caused me a lot of cost, and I have to replace all of those. I didn't do that because, yeah, this economy situation is hard right now. So I just want to keep my property secure. The past 4 months was very relieving, and I had no issue with my property. But before that, every night I had nightmare. Another burglary going to happen tomorrow in my property.
So you're living on the premises now?
Right now, no.
No?
No, I'm not.
It's vacant, the building is?
Yeah, because I need to fix all of those damages happened to my house.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Williams.
Just a question, is it possible to possibly lower or modify the front and the side yard can remain intact?
Well, I mean, I think those would all be great things, but that's not what's before us. What's before us is the wall as constructed, which is 7 foot solid. So, I mean, certainly if you came again and wanted a 7 foot high, tall wall with where you had a 2 foot solid base, we would consider that, but presently before us, we don't have that. So I appreciate those concerns, Commissioner Williams. Look, Mr. Musavi, I've looked at your application. I'm not in agreement with this wall. I understand what happened. It's awful. I've dealt with people who have been burglarized before, and I know that the effects of that burglary has on them and their families. Nonetheless, it's not a reason that we can justify varying from the code that we have so significantly as you have done. Again, what I say to you is if you come back with a different proposal that maybe is 6 feet, maybe is 7 feet, but it has that 2 foot solid base, we would definitely consider that, and we have in the past. But the solid construction is something that I cannot support. Do you understand?
Yes, but the height is not...
Thank you very much, Mr. Musavi. I'm ready to make a motion for denial on agenda item 3022-0720 VAR1. A yes vote is for denial. Please cast your votes. And that motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Musavi.
And that item is final action tonight unless appealed to the city clerk in 10 days.
Agenda item 32, public comment. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. No subject may be acted upon by the Planning Commission unless the subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Sir, do you have public comment?
Good evening. I was item 31. I was told by one office to be here, and another office, Olivia Diaz's office, called me and said...
What is your name, sir?
Allure, number 31.
What is your name? What is your name, sir?
Mike Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. So that was moved to March 14th. Are you going to come back on March 14th, or would you like to be heard now?
I think by the monitor, I'm next month at this time.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all.
See you then. Thank you, Mr. Weber. All right, nothing left. We are adjourned for the evening. Thank you very much.
How about citizen? Oh,